Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I came to this exhibition centre a year ago and it was an empty, cold room. So I'd like just to take this opportunity while I'm stood here to thank IIR for transforming it into, well, I don't know if you've seen the Bedouin tents, but the Bedouin tents and this conference room. So the EU presidency is currently with Hungary, and one of the biggest challenges that they face today is the economic problems here in Europe. The ones in Portugal, in Ireland, in Greece have all been well documented, but they're affecting us all, and they're affecting us in the UK, rest of Europe, and in other parts of the world. So this panel, I think, today is very important, and I'm very pleased to be joined by some of the most distinguished CEOs of the TETRA networks throughout Europe, and really I'd just like to start by asking them to introduce themselves, because if I do it, I'll get their names wrong, as always. So Richard, could you just briefly say who you are and where you're from, and then we'll start the panel.
Okay, thank you, Phil. My name is Richard Bobbett. I'm the Chief Exec of Airwave Solutions, and one of our major customers, of course, is the UK Emergency Services.
Yep. My name is Béla Kozma. I'm CEO of Program ZRT. This is the Hungarian TETRA operator, and we are the hosting country for that nice TETRA World Congress.
Thank you. And just before, Stefan, this wouldn't have been possible without our friends in Hungary, so thank you very much for all your efforts and the Hungarian TETRA Forum as well. Stefan.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Phil. My name is Stefan Kvarneros. I'm the head of the Rakel system in Sweden, and I do think that we have the largest TETRA system in the world for right now. Not
so
in the amount of users,
yeah.
but you have the most users, but we have the largest area covered. Sorry. We are waiting for the German project to be finalized.
Mark.
Good morning. My name is Mark. I'm CEO of Belgium. We are probably the smallest country, but we are the oldest TETRA operator. So we are operational since 98. We started. Today we have all disciplines on the network, and as operator we operate also a part of TETRA, the 112 dispatching center and the paging network.
Thank you, Mark.
My name is Herman van Spaklaar. I work for the Dutch police organization, which is responsible for operating the C2000 network. From the day one in 2000, it was a multidisciplined network, and we have had about 70 to 80,000 users at this moment.
Okay, thank you very much, gents. So just to remind you, in the programme, we're talking about cutting costs while maximising network efficiency and fully meeting user requirements, ensuring return on network investment in difficult economic times. So I'd like to start by asking the panel actually their comment on that statement. Is it just two sides of the same coin, or are there different people responsible for different bits? Perhaps I could start with you, Richard. What's your view on the overall position?
Well, I think, Phil, we're in a difficult situation economically in most countries where we're looking to cut our spend. And we heard graphically this morning from one of our very important customers when Chief Superintendent Goulding was speaking earlier, very passionately about the level of service and about the requirements and actually what the actual end users need us to deliver. And there's no compromise on that. So when you look at the challenge that we have, which is how do we reduce the cost of delivering that? Because there is no compromise on the requirements. The threat levels continue to exist. There are significant major events that need managing. And we have to deliver that level of service. We have to continue that level of service. So the real challenge is how do we take cost out? And that, I think, can be done across different areas of the business. But none of us are absolved from any responsibility to really attack the cost base, whether that be from the manufacturing community. We heard Tom start this morning, and I would urge those guys. I first deployed a TETRA network in 1997, and we talked about ISI to open up the common standards. We talk about a common standard in TETRA. Do we genuinely have that? Can we generally interoperate between manufacturers in the network? Can we generally compete? I question that today, and when we look to open standards for the future, I think that's very important. We look to operators like ourselves. We've got to make sure we take out all costs. We've got to minimise, we've got to use new technologies, we've got to reduce our costs, and at the same time deliver our services. And when we look at our user community, such as the Metropolitan Police, and we heard some examples from Peter today about how we use the system. If we don't use the system, we don't actually get value for money. And so are we effectively using all the features we currently have in the system to really deliver effectiveness across those organisations and operations?
Thank you, Richard. Belik, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I would like to stretch on that one, that no compromise in the quality in case of reliability of the system. And in our activities, there are two major focuses. What we are using first is we are planning for long term, and which can help us to make some differentiate between years. 1 year is better, 1 year is not good enough, but on a long-term basis we can evaluate it, adjust it. And the second is a regular monthly control, not only the classical controlling activities to see the results, but we are making on a monthly basis forecasting as well. And we will initiate renegotiating of contracts of us, and we are making pressure on vendors of us. And every day when we see new challenges to reduce our costs, we will do that one. But a long term and a regular and continuous control.
Stefan.
Yes, Phil. It is an interesting question because this is an exclusive world. The TETRA networks is an exclusive world for dedicated users. And how many other citizens have the exclusive right to use a special network for their work? It's quite unusual. In Sweden, we will have approximately or maximize amount of user around 100,000 users. And when you are running that kind of small system, even if it's a large system, but it's a small in the amount of users, it will be very interesting to see how we can evolve the system to meet the user requirements for the future. Will it be any ISI that will be working for the user needs? Will we have the broadband data capacity and so on? It will be very challenging to meet the user requirements and keeping the cost down, because the amount of users who will pay for the system will still be only 100,000 in Sweden. So it is a challenge, but it's an exclusive and a very good system. So
I think, Mark, you would like 100,000 users, wouldn't you?
Someday we will have. Yeah, I think in every country it's about the same. The question is who is paying. You have federal government, you have the operator like we are, and then the end user organizations. So if somebody else is paying, whatever the cost, everybody agrees. The point is, I give 3 examples. For instance, the level of coverage that we offer, or any country offers, is never enough. For instance, Fire Brigade wants indoor everywhere, which is a valid statement. Point is, who has the money to do so? In Belgium, we have a user organization where each user organization, we have a committee where each user organization is part of, and they decide, which is quite unique, with the limited money that there is, what priorities on what location based on operational needs will be executed. So the limited number of money is used in the most efficient way according to the operational needs of all user organizations in Belgium. So it's one example. Another example is when there is a technical problem, the point is it's the role of the operator to avoid that there is an impact on the service. So the level of redundancy is key. We have 11 switches in our country, and for 10 years we didn't have a backup when one switch was going down, it never was the case, but we didn't have a backup. The choice we made is we put one switch as backup of each 11. Some other countries have one backup switch for each switch. So there again, the level of money you have according to service, it's a trade-off. The last example is when you speak about service as an operator, we translated in Belgium with a new contract. In any act we do for a user, it is defined kind of a process. When you have an incident, there is a process, and each process has a level of quality. Now, you know all, the higher the quality, the more you pay. The question is how much money you have for what quality. You want a response time of 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, or even less. There again, it's a trade-off. So we negotiated the new contract recently where each parameter is higher, and we hope it's enough according to the operational needs of our users. But okay, that's the 3 major points where we focus on in my country.
Thank you.
Well, the situation in the Netherlands is quite similar to that of Belgium. We also have a government-owned and government-operated network. And what we try to achieve is that we implement new ways of managing the network, making sure that the cost will stay the same or get lower, and we can offer more services or more reliability in the network. And throughout the last 6 or 7 years, we have grown in the number of base radio sites, grown in the number of control room people, but the cost were still at the same level. And it is not so much about the economics in investment, but also on how much service levels can you give to your customer. Because they want the good coverage, they want to have the high availability, and through investing in a better network and training our people, we have gained a lot of extra services. We could deploy other things next to the TETRA network with still the same amount of people and same level of money. So that's very important to have a high level of service without getting more cost. That's also a way of benefiting from your investment.
I think actually that's quite an important point. If I hear you guys correctly, we've got at least three parties in this. We've got the end user, we've got the operators, and we've also got the manufacturers. As an ex-user, what I don't want to see is money being saved by cutting services. And I think what you're saying is that actually you've reviewed the services that you give your users, try to maximize them whilst making savings overall. So perhaps I could start with Richard. What do you think the users, the user community, your customers, can do more to reduce their costs, but whilst keeping their benefits, so that you don't just get rid of 100 base stations to save £1 million or whatever the numbers are? Yeah.
So I think, Phil, you're absolutely right, and Bella talked about it as well very eloquently when he mentioned this. No compromise. We're not here to compromise the level of service to our end users, as we heard from Peter this morning. We've got these events to manage. We've got the Olympics coming to the UK. We can't afford to compromise coverage or capacity or the feature set that we have. We've got to deliver that level of reliability. But it's incumbent on us as the user to really ensure that we deliver the lowest possible cost for that service. Now, there will be some instances, maybe, where the users will decide to reduce the level of service to reduce their cost. But we can't assume that. We have to carry on to work through to reduce our costs. And we recently were due to renew a contract for our response capability in London, our emergency response vehicles that we use for major incidents in London. Now, we've re-signed that contract to actually a higher technical specification. But we've managed to do that at something over 30% lower price than we signed that 5 years ago. Why? Because we understand the technologies, we've been able to improve the technologies, we understand the service, we're able to operate more efficiently, and that's our job as operators, to make sure we continue to deliver those benefits to our customers. And we have to do more of that. That's why we have operators in the network, because that's what we're paid to do. We're paid to run these networks in the most efficient and effective way we possibly can, and I hope that we've got a huge amount of expertise in doing that. However, when I also look at the total cost, there's also another element of cost, which is the users and their organisation. How can the users make more effective use of the products they're currently buying to reduce other costs? Not necessarily what they spend with us, but if they're using location-based services, can they be more effective in their dispatch? Can they have lower numbers of resources? Can they be more effective, and can they reduce other budgets by using the products and feature sets that we deliver through the TETRA networks more effectively? So I think there's a second element the users can address as well.
Bella, do you got anything to add to that? I'm particularly interested in what you think that your customers can do to make it better for themselves.
I would like to highlight two items. First is the planned activities. So if the user knows an event, or if we are getting the information in time, early enough, we can optimize the activities of us, we can optimize our costs, and we can help through a conversation to them to optimize their whole activities. And the second one, and Richard mentioned partly this one as well, the use of the TETRA technology. The training and on-site support is very important, therefore it is our main focus to get knowledge about the usage, because the usage, the effective usage of the telephone, programming the telephone sets, using the channels, etc., it can cause a good optimized usage of the network and really reducing the cost of it.
Stefan, you come from a user background. You have an insight on this?
I'm not sure that I have that, but I can try to say something from the operator view here. It's not only about cutting costs. It's absolutely, like both Bella and Richard has stated already, but that it's a part of being more effective in the working methods at the user communities. But it's also, from the operator view, it's very important to get the proper tools to be more efficient, because the cost will go down if you have the right support when you are running the TETRA system, because it's not so very strange that the cost will go down when you learn how the technology is working, actually. So you have a better decision grounds for making more effective decisions about how many hours do you have to have in the support area or in the field services and so on. So you can be able to forecast things. But it's also very important to remember that from the beginning, TETRA was more or less brought to the market from the police organization. As we have that background, both you and I, we know that. And it's also one of the problems today that you have to go from one organization system thinking to be a multi-agency system thinking, because you have a lot of restrictions in today's TETRA system that you have to be aware of when you are trying to get more effective in the operational parts. You have to be more and better to be able to run the talk groups rights, and you have to be able to identify how to do this more effective. You have also the possibility today to have support system to be able to forecast the traffic loads that you didn't have in the past. So you can be more effective in many, many ways and still have the same service to the users, or even better, but you will have a lower cost. So it is a continuously work that you have to do with the operators and also with the suppliers of the systems, of course.
Mark, have you got any comments?
But as I said, we control out of the Belgium operator the three systems like the TETRA network nationwide, all emergency calls from Belgium, and then a nationwide paging network. When we see the evolution, the integration of the three services of the three technologies as integrated services for all disciplines is an evolution which has been quite fast and interesting over the last years. But we see that if you do the analysis in what kind of cost it does take to do the operations of the end user in the most efficient way, the more you integrate, of course, the more it becomes efficient for the operational persons in the field. When there is a call coming in, emergency, they analyze what kind of discipline, and then when it's a volunteer of fire brigade, he gets on his pager through XML immediately within seconds the message. Before, it was totally different. So the efficiency in time, the number of mistakes that are much less or non-existent anymore because of transparency of information. Of course, this is a basic analysis you can make. What is the cost that are avoided? What is the mistakes avoided in integrating just technology? So, of course, this kind of analysis in this kind of business is not done. In private sector, they would use it as a sales argument to sell. For us, the service must be available and must work. How it is done at the operations side is not the case, the interesting case for the end user. The end user just wants that the service is there and it's fully integrated, and more we see the evolution that where today 95% is still voice, that there is an acceptance more and more that information is pushed to them through just information data and not just having voice on the TETRA channel.
Amen.
Well, I think the question is not what the customer can do, but is what you can do together with the customer. Because when we look at the Dutch situation, a couple of years ago we had some large incidents with a plane crash and attack on the Queen. And at first it was all to blame on the system, there was not enough capacity. But when you only look at the technology, there will never be enough capacity if you don't adjust the way of working. So now in Holland we have started 2 programs to develop the system in a better way, but the customer is also working on education, on how to communicate, how the command structure is organized, and not doing it on themselves, but they're doing it together with the operator and together with the end users. So you're sure that when there's a lot of communication going on, you know on before that you can plan those events or simulate those events and find together with the operator if there is enough capacity, is the way of communicating in an efficient way. And that is what we have started after those large incidents in the Netherlands. And well, this afternoon or tomorrow my colleague Sietse Hitman will also explain about education and the cooperation with the operator, because it's very important to have a close working together instead of telling the operator to do something about technology or telling the end user to do something about his behavior. It has to be done together, and that is a great learning point in the Netherlands at this moment.
And that is a good point. And just to a little sales pitch, the TETRA Association hosted a couple of workshops to explore those issues with users earlier, well, end of last year. So yeah, I want to pick up something that you said though, Mark, is you talked about the application in the fire service and how it's integrated with your other systems. Isn't that one of the key issues here? Isn't it? We've got this network, we rolled it out, it's replaced our radio system. Have we really taken the next step? Is the future not necessarily spending more money, adding more building blocks? It's spending money maybe to be more efficient, to buy applications, to put in applications on the network and to work smart. Is that something you can identify with?
Certainly. If you look at the UK experience, we've now fully migrated all the fire service, all the ambulance services onto the TETRA network that we operate. And referring to Peter's presentation this morning, that yes, there were 5,000 to 6,000 police officers, but there were also 300 paramedics from London Ambulance Service operating around the Royal Wedding as well. So we've got a number of users. Bringing that together, making sure interoperability works, making sure that the user response to incidents can be managed effectively and at the lowest possible cost will all help. Absolutely, that all helps. So, when we look, yeah, you're absolutely right, Phil. This is not about investing in more of what we've done. In fact, the question my customers are asking me is, can we continue to afford what we've currently got? And the challenge that we face is we have to take cost out. Yes, the users have to be more effective, but we as operators also have to take cost out, because the real future could look like some of our customers deciding they can't afford the benefits of dedicated networks in the future. And that would be a step backwards. And it's our responsibility as an industry to make sure we can deliver the benefits of those dedicated networks for all our users at a cost that is affordable.
Thank you, Richard. Just a few minutes left, guys, so Bella, anything to add on that?
The application, using application, it's a key issue for us. We have two focus areas. The first is on-the-road activities, using the TETRA phone, the TETRA applications on the road, queries databases, and having on the road some information to make their activities on a better and more efficient way. And the second focus is, let's say, the nomadic solution when we have a big accident and we need to stay there for hours or for days. And this is one typical example of that is the mobile base station, moving to that location and serving the irregular demand of the public safety users. But related to or next to the mobile base station, we plan to make some other applications as well, which is available on a nomadic way on spot.
If there is a killer application in TETRA, it's probably location. Do you use that sort of thing, Stefan, and do you integrate it with us? And because it's not just the radio system. Radio system sits as a part of officer having some application at the end and a control room or something at the other end or another application. So they're not standalone things, are they? They're all integrated.
I'm really looking forward to that killer application, Phil.
Sorry?
I'm really looking forward to see that killer application because I haven't seen it yet.
So it's not location then?
A location is an application, yes, but it's not a killer application, I believe, because when you can see it in the past. When you start to adapt the TETRA system, you start to use voice from the beginning, and after a while you will get into the data. And in Sweden, we recently have got the user inside, and they're slowly starting to use more and more data capacity. And I do believe that we in the future will see a panel in the car that is not a TETRA radio, it's only a panel. And then you have a TETRA transmitter or something else, somewhere else in the car. So you don't really have to be, as a user, it doesn't really matter if it's TETRA or something else in the technology. So it's very important to be realizing that. But it will be a TETRA system in Sweden for at least 20 years from now. So I'm still looking forward to the killer application.
Okay. Mark.
For Belgium, as we are there for more than 10 years, for some of the systems and services we are at the second, third generation. Now we decided that we implement all hardware within the network to afford all mobile data services where automatic vehicle location service we have already 10 years and it's used quite heavily. The next generation is, of course, automatic person location, where when we informed users that this is the direction we think they will need in the future, and we said that 3 years ago, they thought we would like to become like Big Brother and watching them. Today, the mentality in Belgium is, out of security reasons, so all disciplines are quite pushing us, is that they think there is a need that at a dispatching center and in their local operation, they want to know at any time where the person is with the radio system. So we are quite convinced that if we evaluate just as an operator the traffic, not just voice but also data, that quite heavily the next 2-3 years APL will be used massively. And according to that mindset of using data, of course more and more what they use today, like mobile data terminals to consult information, most police but other disciplines are following quite rapidly. I think we are just in the middle of a quite exponential growth of applications, but most, of course, on data.
Thank you. Herman.
I think the situation in the Netherlands is a bit a mixed situation where a lot of users are experimenting with applications, and some use the TETRA system but some use the commercial available networks. And it's more about the functionality they want to have. They want to use their iPhone and take a picture, and they don't mind if it goes through a secure network or through a TETRA network or commercial network. They just want to have that information or go to the internet and gather information. And what we're now looking into is how can we combine those efforts and find a way to bring it back to possible nationwide rollout or standardization. But the technology at this moment for young people is, the functionality is available and they use it all the day, so they expect it to be in their professional work as well. And they are sometimes disappointed that the TETRA solutions are not there yet, or other solutions.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I hope that despite the fact that these are all good Europeans and all good European public safety people, that you will be able to identify with some of the issues in your sector and in your part of the world. As you can tell, we were only just getting going and we could have talked for hours on this. We've not even picked up on your point about how you want Motorola to reduce their prices. You know? So unfortunately we have to finish, so I'd like to thank all of the 5 CEOs of the TETRA networks in Europe. Thank you very much.